Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle. And I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello, sir. Good morning.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a wonderful September 11th. Hopefully everything's going to be great. It's 2021.
Hashtag never forget. There you go.
It's going to be a great day. Nothing's going to happen bad anywhere. So it's just going to be a fun Saturday for everybody.
Yeah. It is like really cool and cloudy here, and it's kind of nice. I'm excited. I am going to go see a play today, which is really exciting. And then this evening, I'm going to be prepping my game for tomorrow. I'm really excited. So we'll talk all about that. Lots of interesting stuff to talk about.
We can tell fall's coming because my wife has already said we should go get something pumpkin spice. So I know it's that time of year when she starts telling me.
Yeah, the pumpkin spice must flow.
Yes.
I should design a pumpkin spice sandworm.
You should.
That would be fun.
A Dune play on the pumpkin spice craze. Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's probably been done, but I'll take a purple worm and I'll reflavor it or something.
Yes.
There was a Christmas DCC module that I ran last Christmas on Indoor Adventures channel, if you want to check it out there. And it was a lot of fun, but they had in the candy cane mines, there were these candy cane worms that would attack you, and it was really funny. So I love stupid things like that, which Halloween has all those kind of tropey funny games and stuff, but with Dune coming out at the end of the month, that would be really cool. Have you read Dune, actually?
I did not read the book. I watched the original movie that had come out, the one that everybody has a love-hate relationship with. You know, there's a cult following that love that movie. There's other people that think that movie's terrible, but they love the books. I did realize that there were several books to Dune. It wasn't just a book, and I never got into his writing style as much as other people had said they loved it. I've heard a lot of people love the books.
Yeah. I've only read Dune, but it was amazing. And it's very self-contained, so I think you could read just that.
And just let it go?
And let it go, and that's what I did. I mean, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, I guess. I finished Lord of the Rings and I wanted more, so I picked up the Silmarillion and I read more and more. But with Dune, I was like, that was just a nice, I don't think I need more. That was a self-contained story. It was really good. So I loved the first book, and I'm very excited for the movie coming out.
I'm hearing a lot.
We'll see. We'll see how it is. Regardless, though, it's breaking out. I mean, there was the Adam Koebel, before he kind of vanished off the internet. He was working on the Dune RPG with Modiphius, and I think that is out now, or it's coming out soon.
It's coming out. I don't think it's out yet. I've seen it on their website. If you go out to Modiphius, it's coming, I think, pretty soon, probably this year still, I think. But check Modiphius' website for sure.
And I wonder if this movie is going to launch that into a huge thing. Yeah. But I also remember Game of Thrones was so popular, and but the Game of Thrones role-playing game, I don't know anyone who ever played it. I've never read it
either. I love the books.
Well, and that's the thing is that also had a cult following and is really a world ripe for, hey, I want to run an adventure in Westeros. You know, yet nobody's doing it as far as I know.
You know what that one is? What I would have called the Matt Mercer problem. They wrote Game of Thrones so well, and the dialogue and the way it's written and how intricate the plot is. As a dungeon master, I can't even think of how I could do that justice. So I'm not even going to pick that up and ruin somebody's experience in the Game of Thrones world by trying, because I'm not that good of a writer. I'm not that good at the dialogue, and it's a dialogue heavy thing. You know, there's always these conversations going on, and there's all of this backstabbing stuff and maneuvering of the houses going on. I think you have to have a certain type of brilliant DM to kind of pull that thing off and do it justice, or just for me, because I would be worried I would just ruin. Somebody would be like, oh, this is Game of Thrones. I don't understand what all the hype was. I'd be like, no, it's my fault. Game of Thrones is great. I just couldn't run it. I couldn't do it. It's justice. Just like I don't think I could do Matt's world justice.
Oh, you would definitely could.
I don't think he does such a great job with his world. I don't know if I could step in and give somebody the exact same quality that they'd be expecting or want from that world because they watched 8 million of the
well, and that's the same problem with the Forgotten Realms. Like, oh, I've read every book and I'm going to sit down and then my DM and you're just like, oh, I didn't get that right,
But in my head, Forgotten Realms is everybody's realms.
Yeah.
Because your Forgotten Realms is near my Forgotten Realms, but they can be different. And so that in my head sits. But when I pick up that IP, and it's not right, it's just my brain being wrong, I think, oh no, it's got to be the way they have it. Just like if I run Aliens, I've got to run it the way Aliens is. The John Carpenter, it's got to be his Aliens if I run it. So for that. But for some reason, I don't think of Forgotten Realms as one author, one vision. I think of Forgotten Realms as lots of authors adding everything together. They're like the
But what's the difference? And I'm not asking the literal difference between these two, but Game of Thrones versus Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I don't know anybody who cares about playing a Game of Thrones RPG where you would think that is exactly what like D&D fantasy nerds want. Yeah. But on the flip side, everybody wants to. I mean, that Kickstarter blew up like crazy, and so like everyone wants to run around in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I know so many people talking about that. People who haven't even watched the show are excited about the RPG just because it's like, what?
Timing. If we were in season 2 of Game of Thrones, the hype is building tremendously at that point. Season 2 moving into season 3 and not getting towards the end yet when it starts to wane. It's still building. And they were to run a Kickstarter now during season 2 on today, and they said, here it comes. I think it would explode.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But I think it was the timing of when it was popular. It still was before the TRPGs had ramped up.
Yeah.
Because now anything's popular TRPG wise. It's almost like you could throw anything out there and people are like, yeah, I'll try that on my TRPG book.
All right, Lucian, we need to get the royalties for this.
Yes.
But okay. I know I have $1 million Kickstarter right now.
Perfect.
Okay. Nobody else can take this. Hashtag TMTM. Although we have to get royalties, but
yeah.
The Rocky Horror RPG game.
All right.
I don't know what it'll be.
Done.
No idea. Yeah. But I think that'll a lot of people will want to do that.
That could do it.
Woof woof.
My dog agrees.
Your dog agrees. So D&D, let's talk about news that's happening in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. We have a celebration coming up. The 23rd of this month. Is that correct?
That's the preview day. That's
okay,
the day
Thursday,
right before,
Friday, Saturday,
like session
Sunday.
0-ish almost is the way they were playing it. And then it's the events are actually 24 through 26.
Okay. And we're going to have information on, well, Witchlight will be out by then.
Yeah.
So,
no book announcements because we have them all.
Yeah.
But it's all focused on Witchlight. Witchlight will be, is the thing that's out. They're going to be running Adventure League games during that you can play online. It's all online as far as I understand, besides the celebrity games that they're putting together that I'm sure are going to be running. They're doing the DM contest.
Yeah, the Dungeon Masters Challenge or whatever that's called.
I think at that point we'll wrap up. Could they possibly give us a teaser, a hint at the end of the show? Possibly. They do it every year. So maybe they hint something that's coming next year that we don't know about yet, which would be kind of cool because we think we know all the stuff that's coming up for now. But with Wizards, I mean, I was even watching just recently another thing with Chris Perkins where he's talking about Witchlight, and they had put in back in Tasha's or back in Volo's or back in somebody's guide, they put in a Helm of Despair or something that had to do with something that was going to be prominent in this book. And he's like, we're always putting little things that we know are going to show up later on in books because their timeline of how they're writing things is like 2 years long.
Yeah.
So the stuff they're writing right now is going to come out in 2 years. That's how far of a pipeline they've got going. So it's just crazy to think of a company that does that. I bet
a lot of companies do that, though, in all honesty.
Probably. Yeah, if they're not like a Kickstarter or they're not just
or even just creative people. Like I watched this is a complete tangent, but a long time ago I watched a documentary about Radiohead, the band.
Oh.
And the documentary was filmed when they were touring their album OK Computer. But like they had these little shots of like Tom York on the guitar, and he's like basically building a lot of like the songs that were in Amnesiac and stuff, which was many albums later. Not many, but like, you know, and so it's like, oh, he was already working on those like while they were touring, you know? And so, yeah. It takes, I think it takes a lot longer than you think to really come up with a whole strategy like that.
Well, I think if you're not kickstarting it, you're not just running one product at a time. They're definitely a company that thinks about a product line, and then they're like you said, they have to really think about that and put how many books are they going to print. They have to know all that kind of stuff. What's the next thing? So that makes total sense to me. So I'm excited. I will probably attend some of it just to see what celebrities. Sometimes they have celebrities I like. Sometimes they have little vignettes of things that you might get some interesting information from.
Yeah.
Probably won't attend the whole thing, but I'd definitely jump in and see a little bit about what's going on and see what they've got.
Yeah, and then we'll have a show on the 25th probably, so you can definitely listen to us and see what we're thinking about it. Wild Beyond the Witchlight is out to early review people. Neither of us are those, but there are a lot of channels out there that are already doing videos on YouTube. Nerd Immersion did a flip through. The Gaming Gang has it. I forget his name. Fry's Minis, he has it, and he's been doing some videos. So you can search those if you want to see what Wild Beyond the Witchlight is like. I believe that Wizards sends a letter out with those books now that kind of tells them, hey, if you want to like be cool, don't just give everything away. Specifically because the Gaming Gang was literally just going page by page. They would do these really long videos where everyone could see every bit of content and then be like, no, I'm not going to buy that or something. And Wizards didn't like that. But they're back on the list. That's what irritated me is they told them they couldn't have something. And then it was like, I still haven't picked up Wild Beyond or pre-ordered Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I really want it to come out. And I want to see some good reviews before I pick it up. Because again, I'm buying a lot of these and I'm not running any of them. And it's like, I still talk about wanting to run Out of the Abyss, and I have it, you know. And Icewind Dale looked really good. Although I've been watching Icewind Dale, Sly Flourish is running through Icewind Dale right now, and he has a lot of grievances with it. And he's but overall, he's like, I really like it. But he's like, but if I'm paying $50 for an adventure, I don't want to fix the adventure, which is what he feels like he's having to do. So he's going through and he's just like, this is wrong and this should have been this. And it's kind of interesting. But he was saying that's what happens when you have, two problems. That's what happens when you have all of these different writers writing different sections so that they can all come together. And the other problem is playtesting is the same way. Where I don't think they have a lot of playtests for these that are, let's start at level 1, the same group, and go through the whole thing. What they do is they say, okay, here's your level 3 characters, play this section, and then another group plays this section. So it's balanced, but is it all the way through, you know? And I'm not sure. I don't know about their testing process. I'm not in there, but it's interesting listening to Sly Flourish talk about his grievances, because I kind of agree in a lot of times. So there was a Polygon article that came out. Wizards is obviously leaking stuff to them for some hype and publicity. And all it was really is about the 2 new races. And one of them was the rabbit folk and the fairies. Yeah. But they're not calling them rabbits. They're calling them something else, but I forget what.
There's a term for rabbits besides rabbits, right?
Yeah. It was rabbit folk in the playtest.
Yeah.
But he talks a little bit about fairies and how fairies are small. They're not going to be tiny. So you can't have a fairy that goes through a keyhole unless you cast like reduce on yourself or something. Right. But that was the whole thing is like, well, are your fairies going to be this? But if they want to make it ambiguous. So fairy is also, it could be a brownie. It could be any of these kind of like mythological creatures of that size and temperament and fey-like quality. So I think that's fine. You do get wings, which is kind of interesting. So you can have wings and fly.
Aarakocra.
Really at a
It has not broken our campaign at all with me having wings.
The thing is, though, and we'll talk about Adventures League in a little bit, but like it was broken for Adventures League, and you weren't allowed to play Aarakocra in an Adventures League.
I don't see why it would have been broken.
And you weren't allowed to play Tiefling variants, but I wonder with this if they're...
That's a misconception, I think. That's one of those, we think it's going to break the rules, but we didn't really play through it to see that it broke.
It doesn't break the rules for you, but when... Adventures League is a little different, though, because they're engineering a very specific puzzle, and if that puzzle is bypassed without any resources expended, i.e., like without magic, basically, or without a rope that could snap or something like that, that does break that campaign, from what I've told. Because you can't have the DM come up with new stuff. They very specifically have to run the adventure as written, because that's what Adventures League is. So I think that was but we'll get into a little bit later. It looks like they're lifting that rule because they don't care anymore. They have too many flying creatures. So
there's too many ways for your character to circumvent the pit, because that's all it ever was. Is if I put a pit in, they can fly over the pit, and now it's not really a challenge. But we've got Shadow Step and Misty Steps, and we've got all these things that come with just racial abilities. We have, long jumps and pole vaulting and all this other stuff that, people can climb on walls, or with mobility and feats. And there's so many different ways that the flying doesn't actually give you anything. And it's actually more dangerous, because as a DM, when you hit that thing and it falls, you're getting the D6 damage per 10 feet of height. So for my Aarakocra, I'm never 70 feet up
to take 76 damage
because my DM is waiting for that to happen so that he can slam me against the ground. And you're totally conscious of how vulnerable you are when you're that high up and something could mess with you. So you don't do it. It's not a risk you make.
Interesting. The rabbits are called herringons. But it does specify that they were rabbit folk that are part of the Feywild. So this is kind of like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of an equivalent. But I guess like you're an elf, but you're also a ladrin in a way. So like you're a rabbit folk, but you're a herringon kind of a elf or rabbit folk. So I wonder if it's going to be like that. But I like rabbit folk more than herringon. But I don't know if you read comics, but Usagi no Jimbo is, and now Usagi no Jimbo is a comic about a samurai rabbit, and now I can play a samurai rabbit in D&D. And I very, very specifically want to play that character, 100%. The fairies look fun. Like, I think you get some magic, obviously we can change any stats we want now with the custom lineage, so it's open to a lot of things. Your creature type is a humanoid, but it looks like you can choose with the fairy. So you just have to, you can be like a celestial or elemental fae.
So you're not on the fae chart. You still get affected by like a hold person or a...
Well, no, sorry. This just says creating your character. So it doesn't have specifically... I would imagine the fairy and the Haragon are
I would
fae
think
creatures.
Player character would have to.
I was reading this incorrectly, but...
Gotcha.
So, but it'd be kind of fun to play a small fairy with like butterfly wings and a cigar. Like, I'd just be super like, what do you want?
Like a surly...
But like really, really beautiful butterfly wings. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Nice. Ugly on the inside, but beautiful on the outside. Is that what
I mean? There's somebody who thinks he's beautiful on the inside. So.
Right.
That would be a lot of fun. Again, Witchlight releases Tuesday, September 21st.
But you haven't bought it yet.
I haven't bought it.
Usually Amazon, so you're waiting to hold.
I am, but I did pre-order Fizbin's and Strixhaven. Like, I was really excited enough about those that I pre-ordered them, but
you'll use something from them. At least one thing.
I'll use that way more than this.
Yeah. Whereas I didn't see a lot on this it was too whimsical
I like whimsy.
Candyland for me.
Yeah.
For the campaigns that I want to run, and I'm only saying that not that that's bad. It's just not the types that I would like.
Exactly.
To run. I know you like that stuff, and I know there's, LB would love to play in that land.
Oh, Herringon's apparently humanoid is what people are telling me. So.
Oh, all right. So so hold persons and those kinds of spells will affect them. That makes sense. So this one did not grab me, but yeah, Strixhaven was one that I will have on the shelf. Fizbin's I'll have on the shelf because I want to see how much Dragonlance is actually in it. I think there's a lot less Dragonlance than most people are expecting, but I like the idea of a book about dragons. If you have I want a book about dungeons and I want a book about dragons because that's the name of the thing we're doing here.
I did hear that Tasha has a stat block in Witchlight from what I've heard. She's in the Feywild apparently. So
very cool.
So that's kind of interesting. Could be really cool. And then the other piece of news, nothing really else to talk about Witchlight until it comes out, because I don't know other than that Polygon article. But
was there classes, 2 classes, 2 races?
I don't know.
I'll have to go back and watch.
I didn't watch the videos.
Ted's
I didn't
video.
have time.
Yeah.
I was busy playing D&D last night. So.
I was busy playing Pathfinder last night.
Well, there you go. We'll talk about it. So you sent me this, Lucian. There was some Adventure League organized play, and they're updating it, is what it looks like.
New person in charge.
Yeah.
It sounds like somebody's come back.
Chris Tulloch, he made a blog post on yawningportal.dnd.wizards.com. And basically he was organizing a lot of Adventure League content for 4th edition and a little bit for 5th edition, but like he left in 2015.
Yeah, he went to do magic stuff.
So now he's back and he is redoing everything. And this is kind of an interesting take on it, where they looked at every rule and they wanted to ask the question, is this fun? Like, does this rule make the game
fun to the player, or does this not?
Or are we just restricting them because we think, that's too much? And it's like, you're probably just restricting whatever. Yeah. And so I think this is where the changes are coming in of like, let them fly. Like, who cares? Like, a player thinks that's really fun. Will someone abuse it? Maybe.
Who cares?
But like, that's a problem player. That's not a problem function. Like, flight isn't the problem, that player is. And I think there's a lot of things like that in D&D, where like you give a magic item to someone and they're using it like a jerk, and then their DM says, hey, I didn't actually intend for you to do this. It's kind of derailing everything. Could we could I take it back, or could we rework it so that it works better for you? And then the correct response is, sure, it's your game. Like, we'll work together. The incorrect response is, well, it's mine, and I'm going to do what I want. Your mistake, DM, And that's a problem player. That's not a problem magic
we need
item.
rules for them to fix.
Yeah. So I think that's their mindset, and they're basically going through, and they want to revamp everything. So they created a new Adventures League Player's Guide. And it's interesting they didn't link it here. They really were like, you got to go to our Discord.
Go to the Discord. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I was like, is your Discord not getting the love that you think it needs? Because I don't hang out there. There's not a lot of interest in hanging out there. So I don't know.
Side note to that whole thing that you said, wouldn't that be cool? Yawning Portal as their website. That was their virtual tabletop, basically their D&D Beyond site that had everything D&D Beyond does, but theirs is called the Yawning Portal, and that's where you go to build your characters and your new adventures, and you can build magic items, and you can build creatures there, and you can build new spells there. You go to the Yawning Portal to do all that stuff. Man, that seems like an opportunity they're missing.
I mean, having D&D in the name for D&D Beyond is probably more people will go there, but I do like the idea of themed things like that.
Yeah.
So in a portal where you log in, a yawning portal, that would be really
Yawning Portal. There we go.
Jancy says, spoilers, there are no classes in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Oh, it's strictly an adventure. So
another check mark of why I may not be getting that book.
I
need my
an
options.
Adventure. So going through this, I opened up the PDF after
I
going
did.
to their Discord and signing up for all of the rooms and stuff. And I kind of went through it yesterday, but this morning I wrote down the things that I thought was interesting. So number one, these new rules do not apply to Eberron and Ravenloft storylines. So apparently, though, if you're playing, this is Forgotten Realms and Forgotten Realms et al. But Eberron and Ravenloft have their own character creation and advancement rules, and it doesn't apply. Okay. So there's that. Like you're not going to run around as a rabbit in Eberron or Ravenloft or something. Other thing that's interesting is you can opt to skip levels 1 through 4 and just start at level 5.
Okay.
And I
like it.
I think that's cool too. But I also, the whole point was like, I like working with your character. But I think a lot of people are just like, I don't want to play level 1 anymore. Like I'm bored with that. Level 5 is also that time where all of your decisions solidify. That's an older rule. So I think that was another reason is I don't need to play this like, do I like this? Do I not? Like I know what I want. I want to play this. And you can also get free magic items if you do that. If you take the level 5, the idea is, well, you didn't adventure to get any magic items. So here's a list of magic items you can take. Speaking of magic items, go ahead. Sorry.
As coming in as a new player too, it might give you an opportunity that you can sign up for at any place where they're doing Adventure League gaming, conventions, stores, events, that you could, if you're brand new, first level character, keep it nice and simple and just see how this game even works. Or I played a little bit with my group. I play, once a week with my group. I'm ready to dive in, but I've never tried to play organized play with others outside of my group. 5 might be a good spot because I kind of know the game and I kind of know a character concept that I want to play. But some of those adventures, they could offer those 1 through 3 adventures at the conventions, but they also have to offer the other ones that are like 5 to 7. And your player pool might get bigger, and now you can fill out more of those tables that are the 5 to 7s or whatever that range is, because now you've opened that up a little bit more.
Yeah, and then people can just play the content that they've made that not a lot of people get to play.
And so 1 to 5 can still be, hey, I'm new and I just want to dip my feet in. I want to go slow. I want to start from the beginning and kind of build and see what this whole thing's about. I'm sure they'll still offer 1 to 5 tables or 1 to 4 tables or 3 tables when you play those adventures. But then for those that are, I understand it, now I want to move into it a little bit deeper. I've got my 5 and move on to the real. Now I'm playing like these cool storylines from convention to convention. Like I go to Gen Con and play the 5 to 7, and then I get to go to PAX Unplugged, and I do my 7 to 9 there at that convention, and then I go to my game store because they're running the 10 through 13, version of the whole storyline that they're writing out. So it could be I could see that helping with filling out those games.
Yeah, and I haven't done Adventure League in a long time, but the way you're talking now, I wish there was a sign up or something. That and I know there is at Gen Con.
They talk about that in that article.
Oh, do they? Okay, there you go. Because I would love that I would love Wizards to organize it, because I feel like it can't be pressed onto the local gaming store. Like they don't have the resources and web hosting and all that other stuff.
That was the feedback that came back in the surveys, was that Wizards needs to help facilitate players finding games.
Yeah.
Wizards can't expect the workload to be handled by everybody else out there doing it themselves, whether it's game store or convention or whatever, to get players with DMs together. They're saying all the feedback has come back is, we need tools, we need a website, we need a central place that Wizards has developed and made cool and tested and given to us, that brings this stuff together and helps us come and find those things.
Like I would, and then I would love to sign up, and I'd say, hey, I want to be a player and a DM. And then this week they're like, hey, this week of Adventures League, we have more than enough DMs. I'm like, okay, I'll make a level 5 character and I'll go and I'll play. And then next week it's like, oh, this DM's actually going to be gone. Oh, I'll just step in. And if it literally is like, you just see like, oh, hey, Lucian's running this game or something. And then I could sign up and know who I'm playing with ahead of time. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Know that I have a spot before I show up.
Right. You could schedule your your play. You could say at Gen Con, me and you are going to be in a party and we're going to play this part of the adventure. But when we meet up at PAX Unplugged, we're going to play this part of the adventure. And when we meet up at this place, we're going to go to this event and so we can plan out how we're going to get to play the year's storyline. That's adventure after adventure after adventure after adventure. And we can kind of plan it out. And I think that would be something that people would love to do. And because if they can plan it, they'll probably do it. Right? Versus if you're just showing up and you're wondering what's going on and you don't know what they're going to be doing. Maybe you have your character, but you don't know if you're going to get to play further along in the storyline. Maybe they're not going to have
it was so many, like I had problems where I'd show up and they're like, what level are you? And I'm like 4. They're like, you can't be at this table. And it's like, oh, well, what table can I be at? Well, those are all full. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
This is not as inviting and fun as I want, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's a lot of obstacles that they have to overcome to try to do it. So I get that part of it, but I think they need to take a more active role than they have. Like if you're on the pendulum of how much they've helped people get together and how much they've just sat back and let it happen, they're way on that side of just sit back and let it happen. We need a little bit more help here.
Yeah.
Getting people together.
Well, good. I'm glad that they're taking that. So, another thing is you can use custom lineages from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
That's the way we're going.
That's the way things are moving. So why not?
Gotta be at 6E, I bet for sure.
Yeah, 6E is going to be completely
lineage based.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They're like, here's what we recommend if you're going to play a dwarf, but here's what you can alter because that's what people want. So, PHB +1 is gone. So now you can use all of these rules from the Player's Handbook, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Mordecai's Tome of Foes.
It makes sense in the beginning. Those first few years, you have 5e out, first 2 years. You want to limit it because your DMs are new to the system and it's crazy for them. But now we're out long enough. The DMs are comfortable with the rules. It doesn't really matter how many more subclasses because the rules are still pretty consistent that as a DM you can figure it out.
Well, and
I think that's good that that's gone.
More than DMs, I think it was a way for players to not be overwhelmed. It's like, here's the Player's Handbook. This is what you use to make a game or make a character. Mm-hmm. And they added the +1 just so the I don't know, people that are more familiar with D&D, it's like, but I want these spells from this thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it was, but now they don't, if I can go and I can be level 5, go and be level 5.
I want a Volo race, but I want a Tasha class.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that before.
No.
Yeah. That drove me crazy.
And now it feels like just about every race is open. So
I want to play a bugbear, but I want to play,
a blade singer bugbear or something. Yeah.
Something.
So that makes sense. They also say that they're opening up certain variant rules, which is, I only bring this up because specifically in Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, the winged tieflings were like, nope, can't be a winged tiefling because they didn't want people to fly. But now that says that it's available. So going back to allowing flying. So
I've let it in my Storm King's Thunder game, and there was no abusive use of it that it mattered, that I could see that they could overdo it. There was no... I've played in Aarakocra in 10 levels of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and at no part has my DM thrown his keyboard and said, God, the Aarakocra got him past the thing again.
Well, you don't see him at night when he's crying in his pillow. And he's just
he's more concerned
they got
about
away.
He's more concerned about the multi-classed barbarian fighters hit point pool reaching 200, and everything something like that is more game breaking than, super high AC kit. That's what's broken the game for us a little bit from a DM perspective is our guys that have gotten AC 24.
Yeah.
Or AC 25 people. That's game breaking. Don't have that in your game. not the wings of the Aarakocra.
So yeah, you can be the turtle. You can do everything's open, which is kind of fun.
Which is cool.
It'll be really cool. Any race or backgrounds in any official adventure published by Wizards of the Coast is available, so you can play anything. I'm curious. And then they said, and here are these optional rules that are available. The Blessed of Coralon. And then you can customize your origin, half-elf and tiefling variants, which we just talked about the tiefling variant. The only one that was really spooky was the flight one, or that's what they were limiting before. I had to look up Blessed of Coralon. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't even remember. Like, is that a function? That's in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And if you are a Blessed of Coralon, when you take a long rest, you can change your sex from male to female. And
I didn't remember that.
It's just like a little flavor thing that you can do. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So they're.
I thought that was with the Eladrian, but I didn't realize it was just okay.
No, you can be like an elf that's just blessed. And they say drow that are blessed that way. Looking it up, they said that drow that are blessed that way, because being able to swap your sex would really throw drow society up in the air, because they're matriarchal societies. So a lot of those drow leave because they're scared of being killed or something.
Sure.
I was like, okay. You now level up when you finish an adventure. So like, I play this adventure. When it's done, boom, I gain a level. No more tracking experience points. Just the more you play, the more you level.
Play that
it's
adventure,
very clear that I will get to level 2 by the end of this day, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the adventures are designed to be, you play this adventure and you're done, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Why not do it that way? And then all you have to write down on your sheet, an adventure log, I played this one, that's how I'm level 2. I played this one, that's how I'm level 3. I played this one, that's how I'm level 4.
Yep. There are story awards, there are money awards. It all has like a little bit of rules for this.
Yeah, they said take away the gold limit, because why have a gold limit? What does that matter? You know, really? I mean, sure, a DM, I guess, in Adventure League could be dumb and give their players 500,000 gold on the first adventure, but who's going to do that? And why?
Well, again, they're playing like written adventures, so there's not going to be 5,000 gold hypothetically, but
hopefully not.
You have a magic item limit, so you can only have so many magic items. There are common item limits, but those are higher, and then you have a consumable limit, so I can't have more than 10 potions is what it looks like, basically. Or scrolls or something else that's a consumable magic item.
And attunement helps keep that under control. That helps it keep from
well, this isn't even attunement. This is just a magic item limit, you know? Which got me thinking about artificers. Like, if I make my magic item, does that count to the magic item limit? There weren't any rules about that in here, so I don't know for sure. But, yeah.
Probably at the bottom it said you can't play artificer. I'm just kidding.
BK Dan, so the player's guide is on the Discord. I don't have a link to it because you have to go to their Discord.
Go to the D&D.
You have to select, hey, I want to be a part of Adventure League content, and then they have a pinned post in that sub Discord, that channel, that has the information. So, but yeah, no more hoarding potions that you will never use. So that's interesting. And then this is, maybe I'm reading this wrong, so I wanted to talk to you about it, but this is about magic items. So whenever your party, I'll read it right now. Whenever your party finds a magic item during play, the party determines who has it for the remainder of the adventure. At the end of the adventure, any number of characters may keep the magic item if it wasn't consumed or destroyed during play. Now, does that mean if I find the Ring of Winter and we finish that campaign... You just go right
to a big relic, right? Okay.
Well, we finish that campaign, does it duplicate? Can everybody take it? Like, I was reading that as I found a magic item. When we finish the adventure, it's now like anyone can say, well, now I want that magic item, and everybody gets it because you were all part of that adventure. And so I didn't know if it duplicated or if it was like, no, it's a single item.
I want to change your example for a second.
Yeah.
Change your example to a +1 ring of protection.
Okay.
So I think the way it is yes, one of us at the table gets it for the rest of the adventure. Our armor class changes for 1. And then when we're done and we all leave and we're going to our next convention, if we want, we all get a copied +1 ring that we add to our character. Now, I'm sure what they're going to do is when they have legendary named items with like the Ring of Winter, I bet there's going to be like the stipulation they used to have before, which was this is an item that can't be brought to another campaign. Like you get it in the one you're in, but it can't be brought to another or something. I'm almost sure they will limit certain things if it's more legendary or named. Then if it's just +1 shield, +1 sword, or potion of heroism. Nobody used it. It wasn't broken. we all walk away with the potion of heroism at that point.
Yeah. And that's how I was interpreting it, but it seems fair and awesome. I like that where it's like, hey, we found this. I'm actually never going to play with you guys again.
Yeah, I'm not going to see you guys.
I'm really sad that so-and-so got the +1 ring of protection. I wanted that. And now I get it, and that's cool.
Yeah, there's no
And the
fight.
magic item limit stops you from
being
hoarding,
crazy. Yeah. Like I have a Vorpal sword, and I have
yeah.
Flame Tongue, and I have, no, you're like, nope, attunement shuts all that down.
It does say legendary magic items can only be possessed by tier 4 characters, so level 16 to 20.
Yeah.
So I think the same rules apply. It's just not everyone will get those,
Yeah.
Or you can't use them, and it literally won't work until you're level 16. So
Yeah. Here's a wish scroll. They'll say something like, "This one you can't bring to another campaign," or they'll have little.
They might, yeah. We'll see.
They'll have exception rules, I'm sure.
So
But most of it.
That's kind of what I went through. You can also trade magic items, which is kind of cool. You can, if they have to be of the same tier. So legendary for legendary, uncommon for uncommon. But if I have this and you're like, yeah, I'm not using this as much as I thought, you can trade, and that does involve swapping your certificates and stuff. And there's a whole process to document it, because that's the whole point of Adventure League, is it's all documented because you go to a new table. But yeah, this actually kind of makes me interested in playing Adventure League again, especially if they got those organizing rules out where I would know if I'm playing tonight or not. So
yeah, I'm always curious that if they're going to try to update how Adventure League runs, then I'm curious, because we've said this before on many of our shows. Paizo has done a fantastic job, from what I can tell, looking from the outside in, on their live play games at conventions. Their tables and the amount of games they run is crazy huge, on par or bigger than the D&D press that I've seen at most conventions. And people are loving running those Pathfinder games and those what they call their adventure lines.
Pathfinder
they
Society,
have their
I
name.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, Pathfinder Society, but then their adventures have a name too. I forget what it is, but there's a huge group. So they figured it out some way. There's a lot of interest and a lot of people playing that. I'm thinking Wizards can, try to match something like that. So I'm happy to see them making changes.
So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that was kind of long-winded, I guess, but I think it's a really good change, and it really feels like somebody was just had this on autopilot, and nobody thought to look at Adventures League and be like, can we make this better? I wonder. And now it's like there's somebody in charge who's like, I can make it better. So that's good. Probably a welcome change, I should say. But yeah, let's talk about some of the stuff we did during the week. Lucian, did you play any games? What's going on in the world of Sir Lucian?
Well, we did not play Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We were a little sad. We've had one of our players is going through medical stuff at the moment, so we're kind of hit and miss over the last few. So that's been kind of sad.
Adventure Path
says pull through it. Adventure Path. Hoping they pull through it so it'll be a lot better, because we're 10, almost going down to the 11th level of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We're getting into some really good stuff, and we're fighting really cool monsters I've never gotten to fight in any other campaign anywhere. So I'm super interested, and I love my character. I love my Twilight Cleric to death, right? So, but I didn't get to play that. But we had talked and we had hyped up Pathfinder news last week. And then I said, well, the big thing that's on the everybody's radar as far as Pathfinder at the moment is Wrath of the Righteous, which is the new CRPG game that they just put out. And I bought it, picked it up, started playing it. And man, I mean, you could see from me posting on Discord, I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and it's really interesting. So I've played a ton of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous so far. And it's crazy, because I don't know how to describe. Imagine playing role-playing games and you like them, but you've only been introduced to, let's say, Kids on Bikes. You played Monster Hearts, you played Monster of the Week, you played Tales from the Loop, lots of cool stuff, lots of fun stuff. Your DMs are great. But then you get handed the Dungeons and Dragons book, and there's all those characters and all those subclasses and all those races in there,
Mm-hmm.
all the feats, all the spell lists, things that you don't get where you go, whoa, most books we pick up, you have some options, but not the number of options that Wizards of the Coast gives you, right? Paizo is going like gun for gun or bullet for bullet with them as far as, oh, you have this many options? Let us show you options.
Well, I think that was their,
like,
that's how they
whoa.
made money, you know?
Yeah.
You make book after book after book.
Yeah.
And
So you stumble across something that's of the quality of a Wizards of the Coast. It's been out. It's Pathfinder 1E, the game is based on. So obviously it's based on a lot of the content that came out for first edition. And it's just these cool classes that are named things like Magus and Inquisitor and Fighter and Ranger and Hunter and Rogue. But then they have archetypes, which are their subclasses, you know? So then you're like, oh, I could be this thing. So I could be this, but then there's this piece, and then there's the different races that you can pick. Their feat list is enormous. It matches the 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons feat list, not take 5e feat list and go on steroids, basically. The only thing I've seen that seems to be a little bit less is spell lists don't seem to be as big. Like the cantrip list doesn't seem to be as big in Pathfinder 1e as it was in Dungeons and Dragons. So that's one area I'm seeing not quite as many spells that I want. But what could I do? So I've got to play the game. I built a halfling cavalier that rides a big mastiff dog.
Nice.
And actually rides it in the game, can run up and stab people and do stuff with it. You could choose the cavalier as a class and play it, or you can choose to put an archetype on it that changes the class a little bit. So it's still a cavalier, but there's something modified about it. You remove one thing, but you add something else to it. And so you get a little bit different flavor. So I chose the Beast Rider version of Cavalier, which makes my mount get a lot of abilities later on. So there's a lot of stuff emphasized in the mount. And the mount gets its own class. So there's 5 or 6 different classes that the mount can choose. And I chose Racer to give it the most mobility possible. So it's about a lot of mobility, but you can do like a Juggernaut, or you can do Vicious, or you can do these other things. You can make it different types of pets and stuff. So they have a really strong pet mechanic going on in the game. So I made a Halfling Cavalier Beast Rider. And in the game, I tried to make characters that I played in Dungeons and Dragons first, because that's what you go, oh, I got to try to make my Ratchak. I got to try to make my Aarakocra or my Aasimar Vanguard. They didn't have Aarakocra, so I have not tried to make my Arcane Archer yet. I'll get to that in a second. So I want to make the Battle Mage was the next one I chose, because I played it. I know how it should play or how I liked it to play. Now I wanted to see how it was going to play or translate into the Pathfinder rules, or at least into this version of that. The Cavalier played really well, probably plays even better than it does in Dungeons and Dragons, the way the rules are written at the moment. So I'm really happy with that Halfling Cavalier so far. I built an Aasimar Magus using the archetype Armored Battle Mage. This allows him to wear heavier armors and still cast spells. Uses a sword in one hand and casts spells in the other hand. As like, normally it's like the way I'm understanding it is it's 2-weapon fighting, right? Except instead of a dagger, I'm shooting my spell off.
Oh, that's
cool. My light weapon, right? So I still have my sword attack. So that's what that one is. But there's some weird mechanics. I'm still trying to figure out how to get it to work just right in the game. So, and I had that in Dungeons and Dragons when we played. We went down to the Tomb of Annihilation. I played a Wizard War Mage for Dungeons and Dragons. So that was kind of the equivalent I was trying to go for. So I could basically make it. It was an Aasimar. I could get the stats I wanted. I could take some of the feats I wanted that were very similar. So I'm able to pretty much create that character. This morning when I signed in, I wanted to create the Arcane Archer, and I couldn't do it because for whatever reason I couldn't find a sharpshooter feat, which is what I really need to make my Arcane Archer work well. So I have to dig into it a little bit more to see if I can make that work. But I'm not sure that one's going to translate very well. So I'll have to keep digging. The rest of today is going to be about building characters I didn't play or couldn't play in Dungeons and Dragons. So I wanted to go through the list and say, oh, wait, they have a witch class. You can't play a witch class in Dungeons and Dragons. What is this? What can I do with this thing or that thing? So I want to. That's what I was going to dedicate today to. It's very Dungeons and Dragons like because you're rolling d20s. You have DC against skills. You have the same stats. You have many feats that you're used to. Almost the spell lists are pretty identical, and you have an understanding of what those spells do. So if you like Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to be able to fit in and understand what's going on in Pathfinder. But there's still a lot of depth there, and there's a lot of newness to it that is very interesting. So I'm giving this game already, I played 9 or 10 hours, a huge 2 thumbs up. I think it's a game that people should buy. I think it's a game that I think you would love to play. The UI is beautiful in this game. I would love other games to have the same UI. The music's good, great voice acting in the first chapter so far. If you're somebody who loves character options, this is it. You can do 2 types of combat. There's a real-time combat and there's a turn-based combat. So real-time, they just do their thing, and there's an AI that runs your party members, and you can click on things to have them do some stuff, but there's an AI kind of running your party as they swarm forward and attack whatever's out there. And you can kind of set up formations, and you can tell them you want them to use certain things at certain times. So you can kind of fine-tune it, but it's a little bit quicker, a little bit faster-based, and you don't have as much stuff you're doing. But if you want to be able to control every little thing, you can do that too. So you can go back between those two.
And that seems pretty typical. I think Dragon Age was like that, I think. Dragon Age Origins, where you could like control one person or everybody if you wanted to. So it's just kind of how you want to play.
Games this is similar to Divinity Sin 2, very similar to Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate, I feel like in this one, the difference is the camera's a little further out, and you have much more control. I don't know. I guess you have the same control over the party. Baldur's Gate feels a little bit more story focused, and I think the graphics are a little bit higher level, but still a great game. I'm loving Baldur's Gate. I'm playing a druid through that also.
Nice.
These are the other ones that are there. So I'm enjoying it. It's a cool look at what Pathfinder 1E is. This game is really good. A lot of people.
And what's the name of the game again?
Wrath of the Righteous.
Wrath of the Righteous.
Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Now, other people, one question that comes up a lot, well, they did Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Yeah.
Should I play that one first? And what I'm seeing from a lot of the people that have played both and played it a lot, they're saying there's no reason that you should have to go back to the first. And if you're going to start with either one first, play Wrath of the Righteous first.
And I heard Kingmaker had problems. Like
it's not as they
not
said
as
there's
buggy.
a love-hate. Yeah, there's a love-hate relationship I've heard with the other one. It's good. They'll always say it's a good game, but it's got things that are going to annoy you, right? Whereas this one, they didn't run into that. So they said start with this one and then go to that one. You'll be ready for it. So what kinds of questions do you have, Mr. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons player, and this guy is talking to me about some Pathfinder game that's trying to do what I know Dungeons and Dragons does.
I'll be honest, I have no questions. I was just curious about the game and like how you're having fun. Okay. And it seems like it would be something that I would like to play.
I think you would love the character.
I wonder if they have all of the Pathfinder 1E stuff in it, or if it's limited in some way. Yeah. Like classes and races, what I'm talking about.
It's humongous. So. You have the class, and you can play the class, and it has everything you need to play it. Then you can do an archetype that switches it. So there must have been 17 classes. So Dungeons & Dragons has 12, right? Once we add an Artificer in, or 13 with Artificer, they're at least at 17 or 20-ish. And then the archetypes that you can add to those, there's at least 5 to 6 archetypes per one of those.
Yeah.
And you can multi-class at any point. So I would be curious. I think you would like it just for the character generation screen, just to go through that and play around with it and see all the things you can do and the huge feat list and the huge spell list and all the stuff you can do. It's been fun. I've spent more time creating characters than anything so far, but I have played through the first part. It's been fun. I'm enjoying the story. I'm going to play a bunch more of it today, and this whole weekend I'm going to get a bunch in.
Nice.
And I'm playing 2 playthroughs in, making different choices and doing some different stuff to see how the game reacts and does different things. So it's pretty fun.
Cool.
I'm enthralled.
Very cool.
But what did Jordan play?
Oh man.
Over the week.
I played in my my Thursday game is now a Tuesday game. And I actually had to stay home and care for Oliver, but he was asleep, my boy, my little toddler son. And we Skyped me in to the conversation, or to the game. So we got a tablet, and then we used Google Meets, and they showed me the board, and then I was able to listen to everybody through the tablet. So I was at my computer and I was able to still play, which was fun. We're in a spell jamming ship that's like hopping the planes, and we got pulled over by a Modron cop. And they were like, "You're going about 12 plane hoppings per hour, and we needed you to go. The minimum is 10." There. And we're like, "What?" And so we got a ticket, and we had to go to Modron Court.
Yes.
And I was like, "This is why I love D&D. This is so funny." So DM Nathan put this all together, and we had to go to court. And the court whole game was us defending ourselves in court. And the idea is that we could only use intelligence checks to battle. So it's like, I have to use my intelligence to battle your intelligence, but we take real psychic damage as we're doing this. So the Modrons would get up and be like, "Well, this is clearly the defense, blah, blah, blah." And then we would get up and be like, "No, no, no, no." But DM Nathan said that we could do if we utilize a skill that we're proficient in, we can have advantage on the intelligence check. And so I would say, well, I want to use persuasion, and I would try to do this and defend myself in the court. And then if it was high enough, I would do damage to the Modrons. It was really fun. It was a different way of doing that, because I don't think any of us were good at intelligence checks. We're all charisma or strength-based characters. So everyone's like, "Wait, what?" But it was a lot of fun. And we ended up winning, and we got past the Modrons. And so I think now we're either on the outskirts of Mechanus or we're in Mechanus, and we have to decide, do we hop back in our plane hopper and go other places? So
God, yeah, a brand new mini game just jumped into my brain from what you said. So there's a court case, and it has a number of hit points.
Yeah, and that was
exactly the prosecution. When they damage you guys, that hit point number goes up, and the case gets stronger and stronger.
Oh, yeah.
But when we have defense, then that goes down, and it's a battle of time to see, can you either get it down to 0 and we win, or have they built it up so much that it's resisted all of our shenanigans and we lose the court case.
Well, I'm going to do this even better. So what if you raised or lowered that bar, and then after so many rounds, that bar number would turn into a modifier that the jury rolls. Yeah. And then if you're above or below whatever that make it 50-50 too. Like 1 to 10,
when you start out, it could go any way.
Yeah, 11 to whatever. But if you get the modifier, you have a +3 to that modifier, and then you roll that, and now it's a 13, you go to jail. Like, that would be really cool.
That is funny. And it's all like Battle of the Wits, Battle of the... Yeah, that's really good. Nicely done.
I think that would be like, yeah. So, and then last night I played in our Eberron game that Kugo the Mighty's running. And that's been a lot of fun. And it turned, we didn't stream it though, but he did record it and he's going to put it on YouTube. But it was a really interesting one because our cleric of the Silver Flame decided to renounce the Church of the Silver Flame. And all of us were just like, what? But he had very logical things. He's like, I joined the church for these reasons, and you guys are running it like a tyrannical church. Like, you're harassing people. You're not helping anyone. I want to help people. And so I think he'll still be a cleric, but he's no longer associating with the church. And it was a really interesting story that we had last night. So I don't want to talk about it in depth, but whenever it comes out, you should check it out. It's been a lot of fun, that game. And then I'm just prepping Dungeon Crawl Classics. We got a game tomorrow. I'm going to work on it tonight, draw a bunch of maps. I'm really excited. They're going to finish the funnel of Sailors on the Starless Sea, and then we're going to jump forward and either go to Hot Springs Island, or we'll see if something else pops into my head between now and tomorrow. But Yeah. I
did forget to
a
mention
cloth map of Hot Springs Island. I put a picture on YouTube about it, or on Twitter, because I looked online and they were like, oh yeah, this is like the new updated map, and we got a cloth one available, and I'm like buying it 100%. So I picked that up. It was really cool.
I did forget to mention, because we didn't play on Tuesday, some of the players were still around. So I grabbed my Fall of the Delta Green book and I started flipping through it. This is a role-playing game, Fall of the Delta Green. It's the picture kind of tells you everything. That's a Vietnam jungle with a purple tentacle and slapping a helicopter down.
Great.
So I kind of flipped through it, and I was like, I was with the characters, like, hey guys, just offhand, what government agency do you work for right now? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, if you worked for a government agency, which one it would be? And one of the guys like, I don't know, park ranger or something like that. I'm like, okay, write that down. And the guy's like, I don't know, CIA. I'm like, okay, write that down. And I was like, okay, so CIA guy, pick 2 of these 5 skills. And these are all like, what are you doing? And we're all of a sudden I'm having to build characters.
That's fun.
So the idea I'm thinking is that I'm going to run a modified kind of Fall of the Delta Green campaign on nights where we're missing somebody. Do one-shot, one-off.
Oh yeah, those are fun
sessions where it doesn't matter who's there, because this is all about a group of agents comes together for a specific instance. They investigate it, something happens, and then you're done. And then it could be different group, it could be different people the next time, it could be whatever, because it's like an X-File episode or something.
Yeah.
This is based off of the Gumshoe game system that I had not played before, but I've heard of.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting because Gumshoe is a lot about playing mysteries and playing investigative type games.
Yeah.
So it was been interesting reading this and seeing how they do. There's 2 parts to the game: investigation, and then the actual encounter of, okay, we've done all the investigation, all the planning. Now what's going to happen now that we're going to go in and do the bust, right? Or whatever. So it's been very interesting. I'm excited to see when we get to play this. And again, I feel like what I want to do is I want to prep it enough that if somebody's missing on our normal D&D night, I can just say, all right, park ranger, CIA agent, and Mr. FBI guy, you just got a phone call that said meet here, and you recognize it as a Delta Green call up, like you're part of a secret organization that investigates oddities, things that normal government can't handle.
Yeah.
And
I like the Gumshoe system. Specifically, I was turned on to it from Bubble Gumshoe, which is like the kid version of it.
Yeah.
Because it was similar to like Kids on Bikes and stuff, but it's like you're solving mysteries, but they're like really important to like kids, basically.
Right.
And I just thought that was a clever name, Bubble Gumshoe.
Yeah.
So
who's stealing all the bikes in town?
Yeah.
There's a big bike mystery going on. And what's happening? I love it.
So that's our show. If you guys are interested in the Dungeon Crawl Classics game that I am running, I will be doing some
streaming or
not streaming, but I will be doing some campaign diaries on the Jordan Jocular Junction. So if you're not subscribed to that, I will put a link in the chat and you guys can go and subscribe. But it'll be a lot of fun. What's that?
One more thing.
Go ahead.
Me and you have been interested in 4E, Dungeons & Dragons 4E. Matt Colville has just started posting videos of them playing a 4E campaign with his group.
With
so if you're
Justice
interested,
and Dale Kingsmill and stuff. So he
says it starts out rough because they're learning Fantasy Grounds and the 4E system. So don't be surprised if it feels a little clunky in the beginning. But he says once they hit,
but that can be good to learn
session,
from too. So
yeah. But he says once they hit that 3rd session, he says you can really see this game come alive. And I'm interested to see it because I have wanted to play a 4E game, because I've not been able to form an opinion on 4E because I've never got to play it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take everybody else's opinion. I want to play it to form my own. So
I think you would like 4E. So
I want to play it. Okay, take us out.
All right, that's our game, everybody. We will talk to you next week with whatever news and stuff we find.
Shenanigans.
Regular shenanigans. But until then, stay awesome and have a great day. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.